Welcome back to AI Search, the podcast about AI and ML in every industry. Here we are today with William de Baets, talking about AI in Belgium and how he brought that culture to Croatia as well. So hello, William. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming. So tell me a little bit about your journey and how you came to Zagreb of all places and how you're enjoying Croatia.
Well, as you know, I am a diplomat and the Ambassador of Belgium here in Croatia. And by vocation, I move around and I live abroad.
Of course.
So at a certain moment, I had the opportunity to request being posted in Zagreb.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time in my whole career, I obtained my first choice.
So wow.
So here I am as the Ambassador of Belgium in Zagreb, in Croatia. After more than 20 years already in foreign service. And I must say, so far, I'm enjoying it very much.
How long have you been here so far?
I arrived in August 2023,
okay.
So that means a year and 7-8 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
A great amount of time to explore the city and explore this country, I'm sure.
Well, exploring, not enough in my opinion, because, you know, the embassy is located in Zagreb, which is a very pleasant place, but still I'm stuck in Zagreb quite often because there is a lot going on in Zagreb, especially in my diplomatic job. And distances are not that short, so if you want to go to the coast or to the island, you need some days, which is not always so obvious for me to be absent that long out of the capital. But as I said, I'm discovering it. I'm trying to learn more about the country and the region.
Yeah, beautiful. What was one of your favorite countries that you got to work in your whole career?
Every country has its specificities, and I must say I've loved being in all these countries. Yeah. So if you want, my first one as a diplomat was Ivory Coast.
Okay.
In moving times, I must admit, but still it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
So I stayed in diplomatic service. I didn't leave running. So after that, I went to Venezuela, which is a magnificent country, although political situation is getting complicated. Well, was getting complicated and is now complicated. From there, we went to Ethiopia, and then back to Brussels, then Washington, D.C., Atlanta, back to Brussels, and now Croatia.
What a wonderful life experience that is, though, to see so many different parts of the world. Yeah,
it is. Cool. It's a nice job.
Yeah. And so this podcast is a lot about technology and AI. So what kind of components of AI are you seeing pop up in your career in diplomacy? And how are you able to even touch it or use it in your work?
Yes, I will answer because the answer is yes and no. So there is, of course, there are a lot of tools that make research, for example, easier for us. Even drafting reports and that kind of things. But we have to be very careful as a diplomat because all these tools, at the end, you bring in or you put information in a system. And you don't know exactly who has access to that system.
Yes.
So that's why we limit the use of AI. Basically, we don't use it.
Yeah.
So we can, of course, consult using all kind of AI tools, but we cannot using by putting information in the system. So drafting, for example, a report, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I still have to do it myself manually as the human way.
Yes, because of also the private information.
Privacy and the confidentiality and these issues.
Yeah.
But of course, AI is all in our life, in everything. So even when I use my smartphone and I ask Siri to look up something for me, well, basically I'm using AI.
Yeah, exactly. And it's compiling some sort of data all the time to get better and better. Yeah. Are there ways, aspects of AI that you use in your general life, in your private life that you enjoy?
In my private life, as I said, the research, but there is a lot of use in my private life I don't even know about because whenever I'm looking up something on Google or looking on Amazon or Netflix or whatever, that is all used by AI.
It's all built in.
So
exactly.
Somewhere I'm using it, not actively, but I'm using it, and I'm perhaps the victim or the client afterwards of AI.
I think that's a really great point that a lot of citizens are fearing AI, but they don't realize that it's already been integrated into our lives for more than 5 years. I mean, the hype has been here for 5 years, but machine learning has been around for 20 years, actively kind of being here.
I read somewhere that in fact it was already used for the first time, probably during the Second World War.
Yeah, correct. Yes, this is when these algorithms.
The codifier.
Yes, exactly. The Enigma was correct, and that's kind of the use of machine learning that is where the study even started. So there wasn't as much money and research put into then, but let's say consumer availability of machine learning has been around for years, just as data compiling. So it's kind of true. Either you're a victim or a client, but it's there.
It's there, and it offers a lot of possibilities. We must be honest. It can change the world dramatically, but both for good and for bad.
Yeah.
But no, I think we have to make the best use of that, of course.
Exactly. Are there any inspiring projects using AI that you've seen that are interesting to you, or that you would like? Specifically, I would say in the EU, if you know of any projects. I mean, of course, worldwide, there's a lot of things going on.
Specifically in the EU, I don't think. I think that we are probably working on many similar projects. But one of the inspiring things, you have both inspiring and also scary things. For example, everything what is going to autonomous, I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
It's scary at the same time. So the autonomous, we all know it. We know that we are working on autonomous cars, self-driving cars, where of course there is a lot of information from different sensors. But when you look at the wars, for example, that also offers a lot of possibilities to AI, the use of AI. Yeah. And I remember having seen images of drones used in Ukraine, for example, where at the end there is so much information coming through the drone, and then that information is used basically to attack or to strike somewhere. But I also remember having seen images of armies of hundreds, even thousands of drones. And all these drones communicate with each other. Yeah. And I must say, I'm a little bit older than you are, but that reminds me a lot of what I saw in the Star Wars series.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we come to a point where, in fact, the technology was helping humans to take decisions, but now we come to a moment where the machine will take decisions without any human intervention anymore. And especially in the wars, that seems very, I would say fascinating on the one hand, but very scary on the other hand, because the decision between life and death might be taken by machines. Who are totally autonomous.
Yeah, exactly. And at one point, I think this is extremely, I would say, fascinating and scary also, that already ChatGPT, for example, started to generate code to update itself, kind of take care of itself. So we're already seeing autonomy in generative AI models. So it's going to be very kind of, I would say, sad and interesting on what kind of bias and how these models are trained. Is it going to be trained from a moral side? Unfortunately, not all humans on the earth have the same morals and opinions, so it's going to be very interesting to see how these drones are trained and what will be the outcome of wars that are actually not fought anymore by humans. And can we prevent maybe hopefully prevent human suffering because of this, or not?
Well, I'm a little bit afraid that we will make a war which is basically a human activity. It's a very human activity, that it will become something inhuman but causing human suffering. So while now the one causing the suffering is still a human, the next step might be that in fact machines will just cause the human suffering by themselves.
And
that is a little bit scary. So that you asked me for a project that is inspiring. There are other projects, of course, that are inspiring. if I can, for example, what I find also interesting is that now, so far we have been seeing AI systems using data more or less from the same kind of sources. So when we are on the internet, when we do research, that basically interaction with the system, that information is gathered and then it's used, it is analyzed and so forth. And you can learn from it. And now I read about autonomous cars that will be improving the way of driving, not only navigating the traffic with the information from GPS and the sensors and so on, but also improving the quality or the comfort of the driving, using, for example, information that comes from other kind of sensors, where the machine would be able to catch the emotions of the driver. So if the driver feels a little bit nervous or unease in the car, he might have a heartbeat that is a bit faster than normally, sweating hands, and this information would also go to the system, to the car, to the self-driving car, and then the car would adapt its driving model to make it more comfortable and more confident for the passenger or for the driver.
Very impressive.
That I found that quite interesting, because there you use really information from a different kind of source.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the human information. I think there's actually I would say a Swedish/Croatian company who's doing this kind of human emotions, right? And they're taking this human aspect into a machine that's just kind of trying to do a job. So it's no longer like a sewing machine that's making a straight line, but a sewing machine that is making its own design. Kind of crazy. And I had not heard of this example, so it's very interesting to me, and I will definitely be doing more research on that. But I think this can be very useful, and I think a very kind of soft way for people to accept AI and autonomous cars, because I think there's a lot of fear with that. If the autonomous driver car can offer a more pleasant ride than a taxi or even a spouse or a family figure or anyone, maybe.
And at the end, rationally speaking, it's probably safer to be in a car driven by machines than by a human.
Exactly.
But we are not there yet. We are not convinced of that yet. So that's why there is still a faster heartbeat, and we are still having sweating hands.
Well, I can say that sometimes in Croatia, in the taxi, I have a fast heartbeat, and sometimes it's a little stressful.
Be assured it's not a monopoly for Croatia.
So it's a little scary sometimes. So maybe I will be the first one to try the autonomous cars. How do you think that AI will change the way that we work? Do you think, I know in diplomacy there's a lot of issues with privacy, but maybe just like the company I work for, that we're doing things on premise without cloud information, so there's no information being stored. Do you think that eventually there might be some tools for your career that can be useful, that can be completely privatized? Because I think a lot of companies are requiring this now, especially going with the EU AI Act that's coming out in 2026, also with GDPR that's already in place. So a lot of companies, software providers, are providing more privacy-friendly software. And do you think that at that point in time in the future, you might be able to accept some machine learning solutions?
Well, for my job, I think we might accept these kind of tools if we could have, for example, a closed system. Because we are a huge network. We have embassies all over the world, and we have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have ministries of finance, economy, and so on. So if we had a closed circuit with all the information that we have already in our circuit, that would already be a big step forward. And if you then could have alliances working with the EU member states or NATO member states, also in a closed circuit without using clouds and without using private companies, I think that would already offer us a lot of possibilities.
And I think this is something that the EU might have an advantage because of this stricter laws. companies might come forward and create this kind of solutions, or even governments might come forward and create this sort of solutions that can be more private because of our privacy laws, which I think is a really large benefit, because
Exactly.
we're good at that.
Yeah, we are good in that, and we must be proud of it as well, because we think about the citizens also. While in other countries the technology goes before the citizen. I think in Europe we still have the human being being central.
Yes.
And that's, I think it's a very good thing. We have to fight for that now. We must make sure that we can keep it like that. But in other fields also, I think for medical, for example, medical applications, they are the same. If you can make sure that the information keep close, and especially, you never can store information that is fully secured. That's one of the weaknesses. And of course, AI uses and lives thanks to a lot of information and a lot of data.
Yeah, exactly. And the less data, especially for example, if this would be a country-based approach, then, for example, a country that's small like Croatia, that's under 4 million people, would have a serious disadvantage of data compared to countries like Germany or France that have a lot more people, unless it's an EU-wide solution.
That's why I think we should all see it as much as possible in an EU environment.
Exactly.
And of course, we have also to make, because we are talking about data becomes in fact the new commodity.
Yes. Yeah, it's a new exchange rate.
Exactly, and that has a lot of risk as well, because commodity is business.
Yes, exactly. It's like 20 years ago, you would subscribe your email, and you're selling your email away, and now people are selling their data away. Yes, every person and every item is a vector data that can be used in some way or another and can be useful. So we'll see what the future holds for this. So a little bit about Belgium. I know actually you've not spent a lot of time there because you are traveling the world, but I'm sure you still have some connection to your home country. Are there any cool applications that are coming out of Belgium in this space?
I did some research, because it's not my daily business.
Of course.
And I did some research, and I found in fact some interesting applications that I want to share with you.
Oh, because, I would love to hear it, yes.
And, you know that Belgium is a country of innovation, so it won't surprise you that we have quite an active startup environment.
Yes.
And I picked some here. And, again, Belgium is also very well known and very strong in everything which is medical applications, and also biotech and so on, pharmaceutical industry. So we have a strong one there. But for example, I found here a spin-off from the universities and university hospitals from Antwerp and Leuven, two universities. And it's called Icometrics. And what they do basically is they have a software and an AI-supported software to analyze the brain scans.
Oh, very interesting.
So that would help, in fact, the clinicians to diagnose early on diseases. But all kind of diseases, Alzheimer, dementia, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, stroke, and Parkinson, and so on. That affects millions of people worldwide.
Yeah, and if it's early on, then you're able to...
Exactly, and even it would even allow them, of course, to determine the treatment that they will get early on, and to adapt then the treatment as well in function of the evolution of the disease.
Incredible.
So that's quite a nice one. Then there is another one, Redu. And they have designed a software that in fact transforms the scans of jaw and teeth into a 3D model that will then in fact facilitate the dental treatment by doctors, by dentists.
I believe I've seen even a Croatian company doing something similar of this. Yes, actually it's the dentist that I go to. They're working on this research, so it'll be very interesting.
In fact, we should connect them.
Yes, but I think in my opinion, this is really revolutionary. Dentistry has really, with this possibility of X-ray scans and the quality of the scans that are so much better now. And then also the fact that a computer, unfortunately, can detect more than the human eye because it has more data than just one doctor who, even if he sees 20 patients a day, is not is not a machine. It's going to be, it's really incredible what can be done. And there's a lot of new research in the medical industries. And I hope that we will, I don't know how it is in Belgium, but I hope that this kind of new research that's happening in the last 5-10 years, that it's going to be integrated into the healthcare system and not only, let's say, continue practices from the 70s, 80s, 90s, but also, utilize this research into modern medicine.
I'm pretty sure that will follow quite fast.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure of that. In Belgium, I'm convinced in Belgium it will follow fast. We have that, I would say, in our DNA to be innovative.
Great.
And the medical system in Belgium is very important. We are quite proud of it, and it's very important. So I don't think that people would accept that we don't make optimal use of what is available.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic step for any medical system in any country, and I'm really glad to talk to you about that, because...
And of course, we must make sure that it is safe, and also that the data are safe, that the data are not just sold to everyone and with names and all details.
Yes, yeah. There has to be a certain balance of risk and innovation always.
Like always, yeah. So there was another one that I found. It's quite simple, but it's also quite interesting. In fact, it's a lamp developed by a startup that is called Nobby, and a smart lamp.
Okay.
And that smart lamp, in fact, what does it do? It tries to detect if someone is going to fall. So it's mainly used in care facilities or elderly people living alone.
Okay.
And the lamp with all sensors detects if someone tends to fall, and then will adapt the lighting to the to that person to make it make it less disorientating, for example.
Oh, okay, wow.
But it will also catch the whole movement and then analyze that movement and learn from the movement and trying to predict for the future. If a person might come in a situation where to fall, then the light would adapt itself also to make sure that there is more light, that's brighter, and so on.
Wow.
So mainly for people who are living alone and not who are elderly people or in care facilities.
Yes,
so
yeah.
I found it quite a funny idea, because in fact, the artificial intelligence at the end is only a tool that you use to implement an idea. And what is for me also quite fascinating is, how do people get these ideas?
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, in that case, maybe a grandparent or someone.
Exactly.
Yeah. I could think that for my unfortunately passed grandmother, this would have been really useful, even though we lived right next door to each other. Still,
you were not there all the time.
She can fall when I'm at work, So very interesting, to think of the things that people create, the tools that they can create with more access to data is incredible.
Exactly, yeah. It really opens a lot of possibilities. Just the fact that you can treat so much data that comes from different sources is great. Yeah. So I don't know. There are others. Stellar Labs, for example, is working on customizing learning programs based on the reaction of the student. It adapts the program, the teaching program for the students.
Yeah.
And then there is also another one, Lighthouse, which reached, in fact, at the end of last year. It's not a startup anymore because they reached 2.4 billion euros.
Okay.
And they are optimizing. It's a platform, in fact, that helps the hotels or the Airbnb and so on to set the best prices in function of the time, demand, offer.
I feel like I've heard of this.
Most of the big companies use that one.
Yeah, I didn't know it was called Lighthouse, but I've heard of this tool. Yes, very interesting.
Yeah, so that's, and then also fields where you wouldn't perhaps think about it spontaneously. There is a startup, Henchman, It has been acquired by the American legal firm LexisNexis, and it's a cloud-based contract drafting platform. So they look to all kind of existing contracts, this existing clauses, and then will use all this information to help legal firms to draft contracts.
Okay, yeah, I think this can be first valuable not only for legal firms, but eventually valuable for basic contracts for citizens.
Well.
Rental agreements, small inter-family loans, maybe things that.
And I can imagine, for example, that at a certain moment the authorities will make such a tool available for the citizen.
Yes.
Because now authorities quite often also assist or support citizens when they have questions. And not everyone is an expert in how to draft or how to read a contract, a rental contract, for example.
Correct.
But at a certain moment, perhaps these tools will be available for the citizen. So I want to rent an apartment and I will submit my contract in the system and then they will...
Yes, exactly. And instead of finding an old template from somebody on some Facebook group or something, and they'll be able to have a little bit more accurate information and up-to-date
accurate information based on different conditions as well. What location, for how long, what is the state of the house, all these kind of things that you can then put in the system.
In plain words and get in the legal terms of a contract. Yes, that's very cool, Belgium. It's very exciting. Yeah. Well, it's going to be, as you said, I think one of the main benefits of Belgium is also this kind of innovation of technology, but also that there's so many incubators and startup hubs available. And I think not only Belgium, but in Croatia, we also have this energy, and a lot of countries in the EU have this energy. That we are really supporting small businesses despite maybe some let's call it legal restriction with the AI Act, but I think that we are really helping small businesses here in Croatia. There's quite a lot of incubators per capita, and helping people get over those boundaries without any problem. So I'm sure that also Belgium, your population is quite higher than ours.
We are three times. Three times
but at the same time, there's
still. But I think that I don't know. I assume in Croatia it's perhaps even more difficult than in Belgium. But one of the main problems is also finding the capital to fund these startups, and you have to pay salaries, of course. So you need some funding.
This is something where the US is unfortunately or fortunately much more competitive than EU countries.
But I think that the EU has a role in that, and we already feel it that the Commission tends to help a little bit. Also, I think that at a certain moment when we will reach a point where we will have more European money available for
and I think
individual member states.
Not only like through EU funds and different country central funds, there's a lot of them available if people took the time to research, but also I think the mentality now, especially amongst younger people in my generation, entrepreneurs, and personally in my personal life, I feel that I'm always more excited to purchase something from my country, from my countries around me, or from the EU, rather than choosing an American software. Of course, there's some things which are unavoidable, but I think
there is someone helping us. Someone at the other side of the Atlantic is helping us doing that. So I think
of course
we might be forced to buy European.
Exactly. So I think it is this kind of revolutionary time since COVID. I think I've noticed I don't like to order things online, and I would rather go to the local farmers market and try to find something local. And then I've kind of bled that into my shopping life as well. Okay, I'm going to try to buy clothes from the EU, and I get really angry when I don't find something that's made in Croatia. So
I have the same feeling when we go to the market. My wife and I, we first look where do the orange come from?
Yes. Maybe from Spain.
Well, if they come from Spain, it's okay. My wife can live with that. And now we have Italian oranges, which is okay as well. But if they come from Croatia, it's even better.
Yes, exactly.
But what we want to avoid is that they would come from Chile, just to name a country.
For example, because of also the economic costs, and even if they're cheaper, it's still have to travel by plane, by boat, the cost on the environment. And I think our generation is a little bit more aware aware of this, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping even with
I hope
the
you're
gap.
right, but there are still economic laws.
Yes.
And also the AI, for example, helps a lot in making it more efficient to organize the transport, and the cargo delivery is
Yes.
also getting more efficient thanks to AI
Yeah, and autonomous also.
and autonomous delivery.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So we will see.
that will be a competition between the very young people and then the all the tools that will be available to make it more
Yeah.
efficient and cheaper.
Exactly.
To have it delivered at home.
Of course, yeah, and I think it's up to the consumer. I think we as consumers don't realize how much power we have as a person, as a single person, and then as a community to influence the things in our society. So I'm really hoping that also with software and technology and incredible solutions that may exist in the US as well, maybe being researched, but to give Europe a chance also because of the benefit of quality and privacy that we have here. So it's going to be exciting.
These are exciting times in all fields. But technology is going so fast that it's difficult to catch up to keep track of what is going on. And in fact, as I said at the beginning, we don't know exactly to what extent we are interacting with artificial intelligence. We don't know it. So whenever we go to Amazon, well,
it's already there.
When I talk to my smartphone, it's already there, and it's who knows what else.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah, it's. I think it's already integrated into society more than we know.
Yeah.
Like how the smartphone became part of our life in the last 20 years. No, how even less.
But I still remember the time without smartphone.
I got my first smartphone in high school, so for me it's been. I barely remember the time without it.
Yeah. No, I remember that when I was in the train, I couldn't call my parents anymore. I just had to wait until I arrived at the station, and then I would use coins to call my parents and say, I'm at the station and I'm waiting 20 minutes, 25 minutes until you pick me up.
Yeah.
So we were more patient as well, I think.
Exactly, and I think patience is a good virtue to have in this day and age.
Yeah.
Because we are, with AI tools, I think everything is so instant and so available.
Yeah. It makes it crazy, I think.
Yeah.
At a certain point, we are running in front of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, as you said earlier, with machines that are making decisions for humans, it's also, we are, I think as a society, maybe because of these things, because everything is so easy, we're also behaving more like a machine. We're kind of fitting into their world more than they're fitting to ours.
Yes, yeah. That's something where we have to be very cautious for. I think that's why it will be very important to adapt our educational systems also.
Yeah.
To create awareness about the power of technology and on how we still need to keep control of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the critical thinking.
Yes.
Because at the end, what is happening now is that if you don't think critically, you can be manipulated so easily.
Yeah.
And as with artificial intelligence, at the end, it's the one who possesses all the data, who can inject the data in the system that can impose his or her will.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about that, but the bias of the systems, the lack of transparency, these are things that we have to worry about.
Yeah.
Because, and even if a system works perfectly well, the technology works perfectly well, how is it fed?
Yeah.
With what information? You refer to that. At a certain moment, machines will feed themselves.
Yeah.
But of course, then you're in a closed loop.
You don't know where it's coming from. Yeah.
I heard somewhere that at a certain point there was a cutoff date where artificial intelligence would look in the internet over all information that was brought in by humans. You might know more about that.
Yes, I think, I don't quote me, but I think it's 2016 was this date, I believe is the cutoff date.
I don't remember the date.
I remember I asked the ChatGPT on a prompt when was the last time that it pulled data, and it was June 2024 was the last time. So it has a cutoff point, but it's very interesting because now, let's say it's already existed for more than 2 years, and people are writing blogs with AI tools, people are writing articles, the news
But
is
using what sources?
Yes,
Machine generated information.
Using ChatGPT generated content to write their posts on the internet, whether it's media companies, whether it's private podcasts, etc. I think a lot of people are using AI tools. Some students are obviously using for their work and their doctorate's work even. So it's interesting. You said that when ChatGPT is going to start working on its own data, well, maybe it already is, because
it probably is.
We are already using we've already published so much content that is machine written, and it's changing how we use our language, it's changing how we write, and it's changing how we compute content. So at this point, we're kind of at the beginning of this loop, I would say. And at one point, of course, there's always going to be old articles on the internet, but it's going to be really important that journalists are doing their job properly.
Yeah. And that we break the loop of just feeding with auto-feeding the machine, in fact.
Correct. So it's as you said, it's a very interesting time ahead, but I think it has a lot to do with human morals and human value and what we find important as humans. That's going to have to be the driving force. And if we choose the easy routes, just to kind of I need my diploma, so something's going to happen. I think it is especially important for young students, educational, even from first grade, from the beginning, this problem solving, this critical thinking, to adapt to society where the human truth and the human discovery, maybe not even the solid facts, but research and discovery is still extremely important.
But at a certain point, I think most of the people will understand that, because we will be confronted with so much disinformation, with all these deep fake tools, that we will know that we can't believe anymore what we don't see with our own eyes.
Yeah.
Because nowadays you can simulate everything.
Yes.
Everything. It's so hyper realistic that, in fact, I can't believe, I cannot believe a video I see. If I haven't been there myself, if I haven't seen the action or the activity, I can't believe it anymore.
Yeah. Which is a scary time to be alive, because it's true, the deepfake videos are incredibly accurate. They are fantastic, of course. If you're in the movie industry, it's fantastic to have that kind of tools. But if it is for information broadcasting, then it's really dangerous. Yeah, exactly. And people will start to lose trust in the media because they don't know what's real or not. Yeah, the media will have to be stronger now. Stronger now than ever. Than ever. And to prove themselves, they will have to prove themselves every day again. Yeah, exactly. Well, so a lot to think about and a lot of things to research, and thank you so much for your input and your time, and I'm really excited to look into these Belgian companies, and of course I will link them for the subscribers so they can viewers so they can see it, because I think it's important to share small startups or even larger companies that are doing innovative things. So thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and although I am not a specialist, I hope it made some sense what I was saying. Of course, and I think a human approach to these questions is really important too. So understanding the public, and especially somebody who is working with a lot of people and has kind of the power to work with people. I'm lucky. My job is still a very human-centered job. Yes. It's talking with people, gathering information myself, connecting with people, connecting people as well. So it's, Yeah. Well, I think a rarity in today's work environment, and a beautiful thing to have. Well, thank you very much. So much. Yeah, thank you, William, for having us here today. My pleasure. And you can watch AI Searched on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Let us know what you think in the comments.